time for Common Man. Common Man, charms the housewives like no one can. What'd you shoot? Where'd we play? Non-stop nonsense on deck today. Tune in, it's time for Common Man.
Oh, boy. Why should anybody aspire to be a common man, an average man? Do you realize what it means to be average? That means you're the best of the lousiest, and the lousiest of the best. Now, if we demand more and more for producing less and less, while the have-not nations encourage and inspire and indeed require hard work and maximum effort, if we deify the common men while they encourage and reward the uncommon ones, well, the end result of such a lopsided race as that is too obvious to require elaboration.
I mean, it's like, hello?
Time is running out on Dan Cole's round. Let's go to 15. Bob?
Yeah, John Cole has been visibly angry. He's been talking to himself quite a bit. And it doesn't get any easier here on the par 3 15th hole at Minnesota National. This hole is guarded by two bunkers with a big tree in front of the green. Very challenging tee shot. He's opted to hit a 5-iron here. Cole, unreal pants, fluttering in the wind, mumbling to himself, I've got to have this shot. Hooty-hoo! Ooh, that's very well struck. Spinning through the air like a J.J. McCarthy pass. It's right on line. Looking good. Oh, my! It's in! I can't believe what I just saw. A hole-in-one for Cole at the 15th, and he's pointing at patrons in the gallery shouting, you doubted me, you doubted me, you doubted me, and now he's embracing his son, Peter. What a moment between father and son here at the 15th at Minnesota National.
No way.
Who that can be tempted? We that can be tempted. Just that one. You always love that one.
Who that? Who there?
He's a rude.
I'm always hesitant to believe what I read. You know what I mean? And I think that still it comes down to society. Many times people are forced to believe what they read, and many times what you read might or may not be true.
For those correct. From out of town, you know, that was a joke.
Gotcha.
You like that? You like that?
He's the clown from Brown. He's the fourth in the North. This is the common man, Dan Cole.
It's going to be, but even though the Rams lost to Seattle, third best team in the NFL this year. Can't argue.
One of the last three playing, yeah.
Yes, they're one of the last three playing. They're the third best team in pro football. Ask Mike Tice. That's his logic. I don't think Sean McVay is going to walk around the locker room demanding Super Bowl tickets from his players and then go try to scalp them. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. But nevertheless, here we are. I'm a boomer, and I'm just what I appear to be. I am a boomer. Changing the lyrics to a Beatles song called I'm a Loser, which if I was going to sing that about me, I'm a low-level loser. But I'm a boomer, and my wife and I have been slowly trying to declutter and downsize because we're thinking about downsizing our abode, our home. We're thinking maybe it's time to sell. We got Deuce is about to. He talks about living in the basement and finding his footing. You know, lived there for a couple of years, but I think he's getting close to going to batch it with a couple of buddies of his, right? And then Pete's gone. He's probably gone forever. From this year, he goes to San Francisco. I don't think he'll wear flowers in his hair, but he will be going to San Francisco for an internship. And then he'll double back to Though you know what? Between going to San Francisco and then going back to he's back in Minnesota for about a month each time. Guess what we're going to be doing every day? All he wants to do is golf. That's Lucky. All he wants to do. He's obsessed with it. He says he and Brett Blakemore, all they think about is golf. And so we'll do that. But then Pete wants to, after his senior year's over, he'll go work. And I think he'll probably go back to San Francisco. So we've been going through, I don't know, Tennessee, if this is the same in your house, where you have storage rooms and closets and you have things that you've, pack ratted, right? That you keep because you want it. And then you start going, well, it's time to go through these items and decide what we really want to keep and what we don't. My wife has already gone through a lot of their schoolwork. Crying. That was very emotional last winter because she's going through the little second grade stuff and fourth grade stuff. And it's all so cute, right? And she tears up and such like that. But she found in a box in the walk-in closet, there was a grocery bag in the box, and in it was items of mine from like second grade, notebooks. And when you were in school, did they teach you cursive writing?
Yes.
Do they teach that now in school,
I don't think so.
Or is that done?
Other than signing your autograph, what do you need it for?
Well, that's it. You're absolutely right. You do not need to anymore. That's how the world has changed. But, back when I was, we had typewriters, and I told you I got a D in typing, right? Well, the only reason I got a D is because I did turn in a typewritten piece of paper to the teacher. That was the start of my Haight-Ashbury days, and I was not interested in any schoolwork at all. I'm probably the only person who ever got a D in typing. Of course, you've seen me hunt and peck, so you can probably understand why I got a D.
I'm surprised you got a D.
Yeah, I'm surprised I got a D. So you have to learn how to cursive write, and that's what a lot of what's in there. Did you have the old kind of grayish paper with green lines that had little chunks of wood floating around in it? You know what I'm talking about?
No.
A really old cheap paper that basically, it was for schools, and so they didn't, they're not going to have high-end writing paper. And my cursive writing wasn't too terrible. My spelling wasn't always proper, nor was the grammar. But you know how a couple of Mondays ago I read the Brian Lambert story about me leaving the Chad and Barrero show, and from the St. Paul Pioneer. Brian Lambert used to write for the St. Paul Pioneer Press. He was the media writer. And so I read that, and that was what Barrero was saying, we don't begrudge Coley for leaving. I mean, hell, it's like I'd look up at the studio. He's not even there. He's with some sales guy, basically telling him how to run the place. And people got a kick out of that. Matter of fact, a couple of people said, you should go back and read stories like that all the time. Well, there's not that many. I mean, I have some more. But what I want to do in this occasion, Tennessee, is in my writing practice, I found a letter to Santa Claus. And I'm going to bring it in and read it so you know that I've always been a gadfly. I call Santa out.
How old were you?
Second grade.
Okay.
So that's how old?
8-ish, yeah.
8 years old, I call Santa Claus out. And then there's another one where I talk about the Vietnam War. And it's, I got to admit, for an 8-year-old, it's kind of insightful. What is an 8-year-old who really doesn't understand what is actually really happening, what the repercussions are, and it's I think it's emotional. So yeah, I'm going to bring those in and read a couple of those. So there'll be the lighthearted Santa Claus, and then there'll be the more serious story of the Vietnam War. So yeah, it's I hadn't.
Your first practice as a social commentator.
Yeah, exactly. It really is. And so we'll take a look at that, and it'll be kind of fun. Now today, no Mark Rosen. He is he returns.
You've got to be kidding me.
But in the 2:00 hour, my wish was your command. Apparently, you lined up Chip Scoggins. Chip, the esteemed columnist for the Minnesota Star Tribune. I affectionately call it the Fish Wrap Factory on the west side. I had to explain that to Alec Lewis the last time he was in, when he was in for Program Password. He didn't understand that. And I think they still do it in fish markets. They and do you know, maybe you could Google it. Why do they wrap fish in newspaper? You would think then the newsprint would just get all over the fish and you'd be eating ink, right? It just doesn't make any sense to me. But Chip will be with us. He's a columnist. He's also a fellow Woodburyan. And I've mentioned this before. We've spent countless hours in gymnasiums watching Eastridge travel basketball and Eastridge High School basketball and such like that. But Chip's going to come in and we'll talk a little sports. We'll cover all the main topics. We'll talk a little bit about the Vikings and their quarterback situation, where they've been, where they're going, where they're at. Touch on the Wolves a little bit, the Wild, maybe some Gophers. He wrote a nice piece about that Nebraska basketball team, who there's the local connection would be Freddie Hoiberg, who was a Timberwolves player and coach for a while. And then we talked about it. We read a couple of paragraphs out of Chip's piece yesterday about how he's a member at Hazeltine, and I love Fred Hoiberg. And then he also has a cabin he still has in Minnesota. We'll talk about that too. So there are a number of topics that we will need to get to. It looks like today was Sinekin, right?
Yes.
The head cheese was in. And it's funny. It's when the head cheese is in, he takes a little bit of ribbing. This one says, I had no idea that Dave's taste in music was just as bad as his taste in sports teams. So I don't know what music he was playing, or if they were talking about it.
He usually, I didn't listen to it, but I feel like he kind of likes the blues music. That's what he always play for, like In the Zone.
It says, hey, Davey, I love how before the commercial break you say you're going to come back and talk Vikings football. Then when you come back, you talk Packers football. I love that. I kind of do the same thing. You tease something and you go in a whole different direction. And so there was a number.
Yeah, I hate when hosts say they're going to talk Vikings right before the break and then they don't get to it.
Yeah, where they said and they tease by saying controversial Viking. Oh, they're really going to hook them. Well, I got to stick around and listen to that. But anyway, there are. He got chided a little bit, and I'm sure he had fun today, and we'll see how that goes. But so let's do this. Let's take a break. We will do that. Tenneby's got a keyword as we go to break, and then other side controversial Vikings news. Of course, that's all I do is bring you controversial Vikings news. And like I say, Chip Scoggins will join us at about 2:00 or so. But as we go to break, Tenneby, I'm assuming you have a keyword for us for our National Cash Contest?
Yeah, the fan wants to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with our National Cash Contest. Just enter the keyword friend at KFAN.com now for a shot at winning. The keyword is friend. Enter now at KFAN.com. Grab your crew and join us for a Michelob Ultra Wolves watch party January 28th at the Rosemount Legion. Catch the action with KFAN's Max Fuller from 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. Trivia, prizes, and specials. Get the details at KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
It's loading local database files is what it says. Whether that's doing it or not, I don't know. And then you know how I always send texts with the, is it called an ellipsis? You know, with the dot. So it has loading local databases files, and then it's got like, it looks like a couple 13, 14 dots just blinking on and off, on and off, and on. It's gone. Well, now now the local database is loaded. Should I leave it alone, or should I keep punching? Should I keep hunting and pecking on the computer screen? I'm sorry I have to drag you away from studio, from Master Control Studio.
I forgot to mention the fan one. Did we do
I don't know if
maybe we didn't. I just didn't cross it off. I think we did it.
I think maybe
friend was the keyword.
You know, I think you did do it because I asked you to do it, so I think you did.
We just had a lot going on.
There it is. It's back. Oh, you're so good to me. Thank you very much. Peek at the Purple is brought to you by our friends at Affordable Electric. Regardless of your electrical needs, I highly recommend Affordable Electric. Affordable-electric.com is the easiest way to get a hold of them. Affordable-electric is... I'm actually starting to like this. It's shockingly affordable. Wow. You know, it's funny how people want to pile on the Vikings because Sam Darnold's now a quarterback to team. The only quarterback in back-to-back seasons, or maybe it's not even back-to-back seasons. I think he's the first quarterback to lead a team to 14-3 records. Two different teams to 14-3 records, and he's headed to the big game. He was absolutely brilliant. I think everybody realized.
By the way, like, they act like that's some sort of accomplishment for Sam.
Yeah.
But it's really just demeaning to the team that let him go, because how many teams have a 14-win quarterback and they play somewhere else the next year? It's not like he's had a bunch. It's not like Sam's had a bunch of competition in this regard.
That's right. Most teams don't let 14-3 quarterbacks walk out the door of the complex. They don't do that. Mike Sando, no relation to Sal Bando, former Sal Bando. I'm showing my boomer. Third baseman for the Oakland Athletics. They won 3 consecutive World Series. How about that, tend to be 72, 3, and 4, I think. 3 consecutive. That was with Reggie Jackson and all. Yeah, the hell of a club. But anyway, he writes about it's reaction to what happened over the weekend and just some NFL notes. But he writes here, another MVP slain performance from a certain former Minnesota Vikings, San Francisco 49er, Carolina Panther, and New York Jets quarterback. Says Darnold outdueled the current MVP favorite, Matthew Stafford, in the NFC title game and might have to do the same against the previous MVP favorite, Drake May, in the Super Bowl. May's Patriots, riding their strongest 5-game stretch of defense since 2019, survived a snowstorm in Denver to reach the Super Bowl in Mike Vrabel's first year as a coach. But he goes down and he has 6 different things he's pointing to. He says, no one knew what Warner could do entering the season. They were talking about Kurt Warner. They were making a comparison that Warner kind of came out of nowhere, right? It says this time, lots of people thought they knew what Darnold could not do in big moments. But in this game, on this stage, Darnold's production, plus 0.47 EPA per pass play, was not only the fourth best by any Seahawks quarterback in 30 playoff games this century, it was also better than any Minnesota QB had managed in the postseason while the Wilf family purchased the Vikings 2 decades ago. Which brings us to our first ramification from championship weekend. He writes, the Minnesota fallout. Swamped by the Rams' pass rush in the Vikings' playoff defeat last season, Darnold hung in the pocket Sunday and took hits from Kobe Turner twice, Jared Verse once, on each of his 3 touchdown passes. He dominated third down, completing 6 of 9 attempts for 102 yards and a touchdown. He says, this will not be the final Vikings reference as the big game approaches, not after Minnesota misevaluated its quarterback situation by letting Darnold leave so they could commit to J.J. McCarthy, who was not nearly as ready as they had suggested. And then he closes this out with, how long before the Wilfs summoned the team's football decision makers to their New Jersey offices for a little self-scouting? It does speak volumes. Whatever side you're on, in most of the feedback I get, most of it, it seems like I would say 75-25, still firmly digs its heels in on we had to let Sam Darnold go. Boy, after what you saw against Detroit and the Rams, we had to let him go because we had to see what we had in McCarthy. And I mean, I guess you can make that argument. I think it's a weak argument. I think, as I said at the time, when I said they should have signed Sam, and this is in hindsight, I said it back when they let him go and he signed with Seattle. You spend, you search, you leave no sand trap unraked, you need no ball mark unrepaired, and no divot unreplaced in your relentless pursuit for a franchise quarterback, and he's in your building, in your facility. He just got you to 14-3. Not all him, right? But so, well, how do you let him walk then? I still don't understand that, other than you must have really been turned off by that Lions game and that Rams game. And again, I will say, I look back at the Rams stats. I think he gets too much heat for that game. 9 sacks. They weren't all just him holding on to the ball. They were getting, and I'll bring it up again. The head coach 20 minutes after the game said, we got to rebuild the interior of the offensive line. He was admitting he was looking for fall guys, and he found him. He found his interior of his offensive line, and they got rid of Bradbury and a couple other guys, and they brought in the rookie, the Jackson kid, right? Wasn't he on one side? Then they brought in a new center and a new right guard. That's what they did. They thought that it was the interior of the line, and maybe it was. But the interior of the line that they signed for this season wasn't really that much better, I don't think. But
and the exterior was worse because your left tackle didn't play in a good chunk of the games.
Yeah, and
O'Neal was hurt.
You're right, but O'Neal, you know what I do like about him? I mean, he didn't miss a lot of action. He missed some, but when you'd watch him out there, he's got a brace on both knees, if I'm not remembering correctly. And that's what these offensive players do. We talked about this where the Lions are all this trouble. I read that quote from I think was it Decker that just announced at the time. One of the Lions, not Ragnow, but the other guy that just read. He goes, I've been doing this for 13 years, man. I've played this many games. I can't do it anymore. I just can't every single, game after game after game. So, yeah.
It also doesn't seem like out of all the positions of football, that seems like the least fun.
Yeah. I've said that before.
Right? You're just banging up against 350-pound guys nonstop.
I don't know if I brought that up on the air. It was just Deuce and I talking, but I was saying, what compels anybody to want to play offensive line? Or defense, but particularly offensive.
The money.
That's obviously, but because you look at it and you say, there's not a lot of glory to it unless your line is absolutely dominant, or you're Trent Williams, or you're outstanding. You're a Randall McDaniel. You're one of those guys that's so good. Or I remember John Randall. I asked him once out on the golf course, give me a bell. I'm pulling a rose in there. I'm with Sauce and Randall McDaniel. I think Tommy B might have been with us as well. We're out at Sauce's place. Well, I think all three of those guys belong there. At the club at Golden Valley. And I asked him who was the toughest lineman he ever faced. He said Larry Allen of Dallas. Toughest, no doubt. So unless you're one of those guys, you don't really get a lot of plaudits. You get paid good. You're right. You're paid well, not good. You get paid good. You get paid well. But there's not a lot of glory in it. And you're right. It's just like you're beaten and battered every game. You go from cold tub to hot tub to lukewarm tub to massage therapist. But, yeah, we'll. So again, I do wonder what. I'm going to ask Chip his opinion on the Vikings quarterback situation. It's Pelissero, if you remember, reported last year. I had to be reminded of that. I didn't even remember. I guess the Vikings did make an offer. I thought they just let him walk without even giving him an offer, but apparently they did. The thing is, they only gave him a 1-year deal. If I understand it correctly, and the Viking and Seattle said 3, and so he took and I also think he thought he had he was going to be the guy in Seattle. There was no question about that. I don't think Sam was sure he was going to be the guy here, despite the fact he played so well. Because let's face it, and look, I don't blame the Vikings for saying we want the guy that we pushed all the chips on the table with, into the middle of the table for, the youngster. Because everybody does want to have that quarterback, that young quarterback that performs at a high level on that rookie deal. And so we'll see how that works as once we get to OTAs and mini camps and preseason, training camp of the preseason, we'll break, we'll come back. A lot of text messages coming in on a very controversial topic, Tennessee, that I don't know if I'm going to broach it, but I might. Cursive writing. We'll do that next. Common Man program here on the Fan.
KFAN welcomes some great shows to Mystic Lake Amphitheater. John Mellencamp will be there July 14th. Chris Stapleton on July 29th and 30th. And Guns N' Roses will be there August 8th.
Guns N' Roses.
Get the complete details on all our upcoming shows on the concert page at KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
I wouldn't really call this list radio, though it's a list of free agents, the top 50 free agents, their most likely destination. And then other possible suitors, not Ryan, not Brian, not Bruce. He was a pitcher for baseball. Don't know if he was related to Ryan Suter. I don't believe so. And of course, you look for Vikings, right? That's what we're looking at. So as I scroll through, the third most highly desired, at least this is what CBSSports.com says, the top free agents. They have Daniel Jones listed as third, and they think the Colts are most likely to re-sign him.
That would make sense.
But it says other suitors, Cardinals and Vikings. Oh my gosh.
Above average at that.
Well, if you could get a guy like Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones in your organization, wouldn't you want to keep?
You don't let them leave.
You don't let them go. How do these teams get those players? Next up on that list, at number 8, though CBS Sports thinks he's going to retire as Aaron Rodgers. They think Pittsburgh is the most likely landing spot, though they have other suitors. Vikings. So,
oh my gosh.
I don't know. I mean, again, they didn't want him last time. Apparently, as we all know, he had a conversation with O'Connell about quarterbacking here. And I've said before, I don't know if that was just a friendship / professional courtesy conversation, because they do have a history together. They know each other from the olden days, I guess. And maybe it was just like, if a 4-time MVP, who's gonna be a surefire first ballot, a unanimous Hall of Famer, probably, right? You don't just dismiss him and say, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you, but I got other things going on." You're going to go ahead and you're going to hold court with him.
They think Rodgers is going to retire?
That's what they think, yeah.
Do you feel like that way?
No,
I feel like
I don't.
He still had something in the tank. He didn't give out the energy or vibe like, man, I'm done. I've had this. Enough's enough.
Yeah, and I do think part of the reason he stuck around before is, he's Sinatra, like he did it his way. And now the end is, he's lived a life that's rich and full, and he did it his way for the most part. But I got to think there's still something gnawing at you when you go, yeah, I won an MVP 4 times and I'm a Hall of Famer, but look at all the other guys that won multiple big games, and he had the one in 2010. And my guess is he was thinking he would have several more opportunities. And he did have opportunities to get to the big game. He just never was able to seal the deal. And I do. And again, I don't remember every play, every series, every quarter, every half of the games. But I do remember in most of those NFC championship games, you could certainly point the finger for at least some of the blame on Rodgers himself. I mean, it wasn't like Rodgers. It was like his defense let him down, or guys dropped balls, or the offensive line didn't provide protection. There were times where he just did not play particularly well. So you think somewhere in him he's still going, God, I'd like to just one more time get a chance on grabbing that brass ring.
He also seems like, he's hard to read, but he also seems, because he loves attention.
Yep.
That he might be one of those guys that lets you know ahead of time he's going to retire, instead of, I don't see him just walking away in the middle of the offseason. Also, Mike McCarthy's now the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Those two won a big game together in Green Bay. So
yeah, they did.
Maybe he's got a good vibe with them and wants to stay.
That's absolutely right. So then I scroll down because I'm looking for other potential players the Vikings, and again, this is just some guy's speculation on who the Vikings would be interested in. But they had the name Kobe Bryant, not the former basketball player.
No.
The safety for the Patriots. New England made a huge jump this year thanks to some big spending on defense, and they keep that trend going by adding the versatile Bryant. Other suitors, Commanders, Panthers, and Vikings. And that does make sense if indeed they do. And Harrison Smith, by all accounts, is retiring, right? I mean, I don't, he could change his mind, but I don't think you do that big send-off. You stop the game and have him announce that, blah, 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 blah. I think he's probably had enough. But that would make sense that the Vikings would be in the market for that. Here's another one, Tenneby, that they think the Vikings would be in the market for. Rashid Shaheed.
Yeah. It's been a good acquisition for the Seattle Seahawks.
Says Seattle traded multiple picks at the deadline to acquire Shaheed, and while he hasn't had as big a role as expected, he's been terrific as a returner with 3 return tutties, including the playoffs. Other suitors, Rams Giants, Vikings. You like him?
I think that would be a very good fit for the Vikings. One, as you just mentioned, he would immediately upgrade their return game. And I know we don't get as many kick returns as we once did, but, you'd probably get a special teams touchdown at least during the season at some point. He's also, I think, the type of player the Vikings are missing from a wide receiver standpoint. The Vikings, the last couple of years, have always had kind of a quality 3-guy set, right? JJ is one of the best in the league. Jordan Addison, if he returns, he's quality. When we had KJ Osborne and now Jalen Naylor, they're fine as number 3 wide receivers. But Rashid Shaheed is a guy who can take the top off. He's a guy who can stretch the field. You have to respect the deep game, which can open up some things underneath. And I feel like we haven't had a lot of that. As good as Justin Jefferson is, that's not really part of his game. He's more of an intermediate guy.
30th best free agent, if that's they're ranking him by number, most desirable, whatever, however you want to phrase it. Center Cade Mays of the Panthers. He thinks Carolina keeps Mays, who has developed nicely since being a 6th-round pick in 2022. But other suitors would be the Texans, the Vikings, and the Lions. I think anytime you see offensive players, offensive linemen, you're going to see Vikings and Lions probably as suitors.
I'll tell you though, like as the offensive line play wasn't great this year,
right?
But other than center, I don't know if you'd go, hey, we have a need here.
Yeah,
right. I mean, assuming your left tackle is actually going to be healthy and playing next year, and O'Neill's still a quality right tackle. You got Fries in free agency last year at right guard. He's fine. You had a rookie left guard. So you're probably only replacing one spot. That's the center position.
Now, Kobe Dean, 33rd ranked free agent as a linebacker. They believe he'll sign with the Titans, but they say the Vikings could have potential interest. Do they need help? They need probably help at every position. Probably.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah. Then they actually have.
I have a feeling before we go to the draft, you know me, I'm take a best player available, and I'm going to say it even more this year because there's so many needs everywhere. Just find a star player.
The 34th ranked player, the CBSSports.com has the Vikings signing this player, with Rams, Jets, and Bears as the other suitors. Safety Cameron Curl. You familiar with him?
Not too familiar with him, no.
A strong tackling safety who's done solid work with both the Commanders and the Rams. What do you think of Sean Wright? Cornerback, Chicago Bears. Wright was one of the most surprising breakouts of the 2025 season. After 1 interception in 4 seasons, he had 5 in his only campaign with the Bears, added 2 forced fumbles and 3 fumble recoveries. Teams that will be vying for his services include the Jaguars, the Rams, and the Vikings. And again, remember, I keep saying this is just all speculation from a sports staff that writes for CBS. Whether the Vikings are
they just look at teams' needs and then they put the name next to it. Yeah,
but I think it's I think it makes sense because you're right because of those needs. But I'll leave. I generally leave most of the free agent stuff to the guys that understand it better. When I mean understand, like salary cap and bonus. It's like after a while, it's like it's hard to know who they can squeeze under the cap, what money they have to. More than likely, the Vikings, we talked about this, the name, there are a number of names of people that they're going to have to get to renegotiate. But I think number one on that list would be their tight end, right?
Well, I will say
Hawkinson's due, like, if they just let him play on his current contract next year, whatever you sign. I think he'd be making $21 million against the cap, right? And they're not going to do it.
They're not going to, no.
So that's the other thing is
the restructure or
exactly.
He's going to be cut candidate.
Right. And so that's again, like it's nice to do it's the most wonderful time in the world and think of all the free agents you could sign, but it gets more complicated and just, this is on my wish list and we're going to get them.
Well, back to the cornerback position. Since B-Flow has gotten there, they've kind of neglected getting cornerbacks in free agency, right? 2 years ago, they got Shaq, where you at?
Yeah.
And they didn't get him until, June? May or June. They didn't, first day of free agency, they weren't going after anyone. I forget the other corner who was also a little long in the tooth, who had a successful career, but was old at the time. And then last year, They got Isaiah Rodgers on day one, who is basically a part-time player for Philadelphia. And then got your guy Okudah. But they haven't really invested in the cornerback position in free agency.
You're right.
Other than re-signing Byron Murphy Jr.
That's correct. The last player that they have the Vikings interested in is, again, you guessed it, Tenneby, another safety. That would be Brian Cook of the Broncos. So I guess what this list does do, though, is if you believe that Harrison Smith is going to retire, and I think we do believe that, there are quality free agents available at that position. Just a matter of if you can offer them the right deal, if they want to come here, blah, 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 and if the team is interested. Also, with our center having all of his concussion issues, was it 3 concussions this year? And what, career-wise, he's at 5, 6, and those are just ones they know of. You know, there's, who knows, go back to when he was playing, you know, Howard Pulley and Pop Warner football. Who knows how many he had, if he had any. He may have had some then. But there was a center or 2 out there as well. So there are players in the free agent position. It's like, but your salary cap, you know, like most teams, it doesn't seem to be as healthy as you'd like. They'll be busy in the front office when it comes to with, you know, Brzezinski, the capologist guy, Kwesi, and whoever else fiddles around with that. The
quarterback thing would be, I think, interesting, right? I would assume Daniel Jones will re-sign with Indy, and probably Aaron Rodgers goes back to Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. But if one of them hits free agency, whether the Vikings pursue him or not, I think that's a discussion we could have. And then if they do pursue him, what does that say about their faith in J.J. McCarthy?
Yeah.
So,
well, if they did pursue a quarterback, you know, I think you might be right about Rodgers going to Pittsburgh, though I will say this. You know, Rodgers, and I believe the reports, last year, the Vikings were his choice because I think he liked how the team looked. Now, maybe after he saw that offensive line this year, he's changed his mind, but having Justin Jefferson, you know, if he's not the best wide receiver in football, he's top 2 or 3, right? You look at that and you know, because let's face it, Rodgers is in it for one thing and one thing only. He wants to get back to the big game. That's what he wants. It's not about money anymore. I mean, he'll take the paycheck, trust me. But remember, didn't he say he was willing to pay for, you know, I'll play for $10 or $11 million? I mean, it wasn't like he was asking for, you know, I got to have a 3-year, $100 million deal. That's the reports as he was willing, now whether that's true or not. But I think winning, and so I think if there's an opportunity to go somewhere, if there's another team that might like him, that's in a better position to win, I think he would go there. Because I think that's what he's a mercenary now at this point. He just wants to win. And with, and again, I don't know if he looks at Minnesota as favorably as he did last year, because by all reports, last year he was very interested. And this year, I don't know.
And I will also say Daniel Jones at whatever price he's going to get probably wouldn't as excite me as much as, you know, going into last year when you could get him on the cheap.
Right, yes. Yeah, I agree with you. And, you know, I would think that, and again, I think Daniel Jones, if you believe what was reported, and I don't know if there's a quote from him, but it seemed that the belief is the reason he wanted to leave Minnesota, because remember, he said very nice things about Minnesota. Remember when he did the old, boy, they do things different here, boy. I tell you what, they know what they're doing here in Minnesota. He liked the way they game planned and the way the quarterback room ran and all of those things. But he felt he had a better chance to start in Baltimore and Indianapolis than he did in Minnesota, because he got the feeling, and I think he was right, no, McCarthy is going to be our number one unless he fails miserably. Then you're the guy, but you're really not competing for the starting job unless the intended starter like a McCarthy is awful and the backup's brilliant. Otherwise, that's what they were probably going to do. And he just felt he had a better chance to start with Indianapolis, and that turned out to be the case because he did start there until he was hurt. One more list thing. It's the NBA trade deadline buyer's guide. Buyer's guide. How contenders can make moves before February 5th. And so what do you think I did, Tenneby? I scrolled down to the soon-to-be NBA world champion Minnesota Timberwolves to see what they say. It says Timberwolves financial situation. Says the Wolves are looking at around $3.5 million in second apron hard cap space right now. That's enough wiggle room to get something done, but not much. As of right now, they'll have around $21 million in second apron space next season. Staying below next year is probably a priority as well, so keep that in mind. Assets. The Wolves are basically out of first-round picks. They have their own 2026 pick, but it's not tradable. And don't ask me why it's not tradable. I don't understand any of it. Every other pick is encumbered in some way or frozen. Minnesota does have a handful of second-round picks to dangle, though, and they also have young players who would likely interest teams. Rob Dillingham has thus far been a bust, but he's a recent number 8 overall pick. Terrence Shannon has been hurt lately, but has been good when he's played. Walt Béranger has impressed in tiny samples. Jalen Clark and Leonard Miller could probably get minutes on a worse team. Then it goes to the category of needs. More playmaking out of the backcourt. If they have the 2021 Mike Conley instead of the 2026 Mike Conley, they might win a championship. Now, I don't know if I'm going to go as far as to say that, but it certainly would be a major improvement if they had a younger, more tread on the tires Mike Conley. Alas.
Or if they hadn't missed on that Rob Dillingham pick.
Right. Well, that's it. And that's the other thing. They say because Dillingham was an 8th round pick, he might be of interest to other teams. Yeah. Or 8th overall. But it's possible a lot of teams look at it and say, you just miscalculated on him so badly that I don't think other teams in the league go, boy, he just hasn't been able to develop there, but he was worthy of the 8th pick overall. And maybe he is, maybe he will be. I don't know, but I don't know if teams are. I don't know if you dangle Rob Dillingham in front of him. I don't know what you would get in return.
You can still change your mind on that.
Yes, exactly.
Right, like for the Wild standpoint, like they don't have many prospects to trade now if they want to get some big names. David Juracek's name's coming up. The Wild gave up like first, second, third round pick and another. Well, they're not going to get that back. Like things change over a course of months or a year.
It says it says they could be looking at different kinds of guards. It says Kobe White would give them a more scoring point guard, which could at least ease defensive pressure on teammates, even if he's not exactly a traditional playmaker. That's the best player likely available in Minnesota without breaking up the roster's core. It'll cost several of these young players, but if they feel confident they could re-sign White to an affordable deal, it would be worth it. I don't know. I'll leave that to the experts. I'll leave that to the big tickets of the world with whether that's the right guy. But it does seem, and then the people I trust, talking to people and reading things, that the Wolves need some bench scoring as well. So we'll see. I mean, now again, last night, was that last night? Did they play Golden State again?
Yeah, well, they played the Golden State's junior varsity team, right. But yes.
And they played without Ant. Because he took load management on his foot again, and apparently the Bones kid was pretty good again. Well, he's been hot and cold, so I don't know how much you can depend upon him. We'll pause, come back. Chip Scoggins of the Minnesota Star Tribune, Fish Rep Dr. Westside joins us in studio next here on the Fan.